session as so many people think that why should we tell others whether a particular place is a good source of information, and people try to keep knowledge to to themselves, but they don't realize this knowledge is more or less like money. You need to make it float around to get you more. So if you just deposit it in one place at your home, you are not going to get interest, and you're not going to make any profit out of it, right? The money will remain as is, and inflation will make it less. Same is the case with knowledge as well. So if you keep knowledge to yourself, you're just going to lose it. You're not going to gain more out of it. So thanks for sharing the knowledge with others as well.
Yeah, thank you, Shipra. So yeah, should we start, Shipra, or do you think we
Yeah.
still?
Yeah, we can make a start. Yeah. So you recently given a few interviews, and
Mhm.
you'll what we are going to do is we are going to discuss what kind of questions they asked you, how do you responded, and if there is a better way of responding to those questions, or if a particular answer should be incorporated within your response, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, firstly, I'll go with very common question. Like they ask like, what are the main responsibilities you have performed as a business analyst in your role? So how do you answer that
Mhm.
exactly?
So what you have to do is to share your experience only, right? The what interviewer
Your
is
voice
looking
is
for
breaking
is
in between. I
your
don't know. It's for me only, or
is it better now?
yeah, now it's good.
Okay, yeah, I moved my phone now closer. Okay, so the idea here is not to understand whether you are aware of BA roles and responsibilities. The idea is very clear that they want to understand what your current profile is. The problem with the BA profile is that there are so many people doing a non-BA job under a BA designation, right? So you must have come across a JD where they are talking about Python and BI and data analysis kind of a profile, and then they'll say you are a business analyst, right? And same goes for other way around, right? So some people will be just focusing on requirement uh, support kind of a work, right, wherein they just work on small changes in the system, making some data fixes, getting some bug fix, and so on and so forth. Some people are doing a very good they are getting very good exposure. They are doing each and everything from requirement elicitation till deployment. They are thoroughly engaged. Some people are kind of doing a non-technical job, but they are being called a BA. So at one point in time in my life, I was just updating a notepad files, and I was given a designation of a BA lead, which is a story of another time. Yeah, but what happens is that there are so many work out there which they call as a BA, but actually they are not. It doesn't match with the opening. It doesn't match with the profile the person is looking for. So the idea of asking this question is to understand where exactly you are placed, what your experience is. So I have came across many into candidates wherein when I ask this question, what is your day to day job like, what are your day to day responsibilities like, but when they start explaining to me, it becomes very clear to me that they are not doing a BA job, they are doing something else. Maybe they are doing a business analytics kind of a profile. Maybe they are just making some configurations in the system, but they are not thoroughly engaged with the customer, right? So it helps me understand whether the person is the right fit for the current profile opening or not. So it is very important here for you to give an honest answer. Do not talk about BA roles and responsibilities, but actually talk about what your exposure is, what day-to-day jobs you are performing, so that the person can, or the interviewer can make a right call whether your profile matches with the opening or not. See, interview is not a place where interviewer is judging you. Interview is a place where interviewer is judging you whether you match the opening or not, and you are also getting an idea of what kind of role you are going into. Right? It is equally important for you to have a two-way communication during the interview, to understand the profile and to understand what what the opening is all about, so that you can also make a right decision of joining the company or changing your profile. Sometimes what happens is when you switch company, your profile changes entirely, right? So you should not end up in a situation just because you get some hike, but your profile changed drastically. So you should also make a decision of what kind of opening it is, and how you can make the decision is from your interviewer's question, right? So it is very important to give honest feedback or honest responses in the interview, so that the it is very difficult for the candidate to judge whether I'm matching the opening or not, because the candidate does not get a good exposure on what the opening or the work is about, but interviewer knows. So if you are giving an honest and unbiased answer, if you're telling the interviewer what exactly you are doing day by day, interviewer can make a call on your behalf whether you are a right fit for the profile or not. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, understood. So coming to that particular answer or about the roles and responsibilities only. So can you please elaborate more on see if I'm as a BA, I'm working in one company and I'm doing this requirement elicitation, documenting it, then again converting them into the user stories, making those document BID, FRD, and again doing end-to-end project updates or tracking the project. Then sometimes maybe leading this daily stand-up call, sometimes involved in this capacity planning call as well. So how will you describe that role, that you are doing all these things, or in the Scrum they are product owner is a different role, developer, scrum master is a different role, and then again we have that project manager and business analyst. So how will you describe that, exactly what you are doing if you are doing this all these activities? You will describe as a BA,
Yeah.
you will describe you as a PM or PO.
No, so if you're if the opening is for a BA,
Mhm.
right, you'll give it a big BA angle. If the opening is for a PM plus BA, you will give it a PM BA kind of an angle, right? Scrum Master, you'll talk about some of the Scrum Master role responsibilities that you might be performing. If you're giving an interview for a PO opening, then you have to bring in some elements of a PO in your day-to-day job profile as well. See, the idea is not to lie, right? The idea is to articulate some of your roles and responsibilities in a manner that they will give an idea, or they'll give an idea to the interviewer that you are matching the profile, right? So first of all, you should have to be very clear in what the JD is. And what you can do is you can either go through JD and give examples of what you are doing day by day, yeah, or you can go it via analysis phase wise, wherein so we recently had a lot of sessions on BA roles and responsibilities per phase,
Mhm.
right? We talked about BA roles and responsibilities in planning phase, in analysis phase, in development phase. Testing phase is pending, which I'll take up some time. So you'll you talk about your current workload. So don't skip out anything. If you are doing some coordination, do mention that. If you are writing some documents, do mention that. So whatever you told, right? Eliciting requirements, documenting requirements, user stories, BRDs, FSDs, data dictionaries, and coordinating with dev team, coordinating with QC team. So mention each and everything. So you know your day-to-day job best, right?
Yeah.
So just structure it. Just maybe start from um, planning phase, analysis phase, and development phase, testing phase, deployment phase. Yeah, so you can go phase wise, or you can start your responsibilities focusing on requirements first, how you elicit requirements, then focus on requirement documentation, then focus on your coordination, then focus on maybe stakeholder management, focus on conflict management. So whatever you are doing, right, you have to tell all of it, but try to give it a structure. Do not start rambling about it. So one time you are talking about elicitation, then you are jumping over to dev coordination, then you are coming back to requirement documentation. Don't do that, but just give it a structure and go through it one by one. When you are giving an interview, right? So see the time. Is it in a half an hour interview? Is it a 45-minute interview? Is it an hour interview? And how much you want to, you know, get hold of the interview. So if you are giving long answers, right? So if you're some person asks you what are your roles and responsibilities, and you're spending half an hour just to explain your roles and responsibilities, then you are going nowhere, right? Person is not going able to ask you more questions. The person will think that you don't have time management skills, right? So give short and concise answers. There is no need to explain each and everything unless asked, but keep your answer to the point, but also do not miss anything just because you want to keep it short.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone asks you what are your roles and responsibilities, so I'll say in planning phase, I prepare a requirement log, I create a backlog, so on and so forth. In a analysis phase, I elicit requirements, conduct workshops with the client, conduct focus group sessions with the client. I document requirements, I create user stories and supplement it with the data dictionaries, screen design, now wireframes. So I'll go like this, right? But I don't just keep on blabbing about it for 15-20 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Understood.
So your a note of how much time you have, right? If and when the question towards the
Shipra,
end of the
your
interview,
voice.
anyways, you'd have time, right? So you
Sorry to
would also
interrupt.
like to wrap up the interview in an hour.
Your voice is still breaking
Yeah.
for me.
Okay. No one else is on speaker, so I am not sure whether others are facing this issue.
Uh,
Yes.
okay,
Let
no
me
problem. Now it's good.
so let me try. Let me try moving to some other room. Yeah. Maybe that will help. Yeah. You can carry on.
So second question will be, so while this requirement elicitation, how will you make sure that you don't miss any edge cases, or whatever your requirement elicitation, whatever you're documenting, it is covering all of the detailed requirements. So how will you make sure that that
So what is your response? What did you respond?
So what I did say, let me remember. So yeah, while eliciting this requirement, so firstly, what I do, if I check whether if it is any available document is there to understand the as is process. So once I do that, so whatever question I have on those, after doing this analysis of the current space or referring those documents, so I list down all those questions, and what I do, I'll send him the question to the stakeholder to whom that I'm going to schedule a meeting, so they will have idea like what exactly basically I am looking for, so they will be in a ready phase to answer those questions. So while having the elicitation call, I cover this all these question one by one, and take a note of all this, and based on that I update my document. And also doing this analysis, I perform this impact analysis as well, so it helped me like exactly to know about like what will be the impact of this requirement on the other part of the system, you can say. So this is how I answer, Shipra.
Yeah. So, what we have to do is we have to understand the intent of the question, right? So, the
Okay.
intent is not how do you elicit requirements, right? Or how do you ask questions? The intent is uh, how do you perform impact analysis? Yeah. So, you did mention that you perform impact analysis, but you didn't elaborated on it. So, the question was how can you make sure that there are edge cases which you are not missing, right? So
Mhm.
basically how do you ensure that you do not miss on the requirements? What you have explained as an answer is basically how do you perform requirement elicitation, which is a different answer than to the question. uh, do you understand what I'm
Yeah,
trying
yeah,
to
yeah,
say,
yeah.
right?
Got it.
So the question is how do you perform impact analysis, or how do you ensure that you are not missing on any critical bits in your impact analysis, right? So a valid answer, or a better answer, I'm not saying whatever you have explained is wrong, right? That's more or less part right? So preparing a set of questionnaires to ask a client. Yeah, but how are you ensuring that you are asking the right questions, or how are you ensuring that your questions are not missing on any of the impact, right? So if I would have to answer it, I will say, uh, whenever I join any project, I prepare a checklist for myself. And how I prepare a checklist is, I'll ask my team on what are the integrations to the system are. So whenever I work on a requirement, I make sure that I analyze impact on all those integrations. So if my data is if my application is having some upstream systems, is having some downstream systems, I have to be aware of all those systems, and so that whenever I take requirements, whenever I give a solution to the client, I do not miss out the impact on any of the downstream systems or any of the even the upstream systems, right? It should not happen that I'm just solely looking into my application, and I develop something, and to realize later on that it is not being supported downstream, or the upstream system is not filling up the correct value for it. So first thing I do is I prepare a checklist of all the integrations to my application. Second thing I do is I prepare a checklist of all the modules in the application. So if I am working on, I belong to insurance domain, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if I am working on a policy module, I make sure that I understand whether I have a claims module or not, whether I have a documents module or not, whether I have a note section to it, whether I have work trace, so on and so forth. So I prepare a list of modules. So whenever I take up a requirement, I go through all my modules within the system and I see if there is an impact. So if I am introducing a field, is it going to impact my premiums? Is it going to impact, something else? So I can only do that if I have a thorough understanding of what all areas are there in my system. So I prepare a checklist of the modules in my system. Then I have an internal checklist where I say, run spell check, capitalize the right words, bold out the right letters. I follow a particular format for myself, and I have listed them down, and I ensure that I just give a quick review to them, so that I write the good requirements. Then what I'll do is I walk through those requirements with my dev team and with my QC team before taking it to the customer as well, right? If I'm eliciting the requirements, and if I'm preparing a questionnaire, so I try to get a hold of someone from the team, and I say, can you review these questions for me, and can you are you thinking of any other scenarios which we should consider? So it's like brainstorming session. So I arrange our internal brainstorming sessions, and then when I go to the client with a set of questionnaire, my questions are more or less covering each and everything, right? And I don't miss out on the requirements. Still, sometimes requirements do get missed. No one is perfect, but I try to minimize the impact as much as I can to the best of my abilities. Yeah. So do you understand the difference between the response that you gave and the response I gave?
Yeah.
I was focused on impact analysis because that was the intent of the question. The intent of the question was not how you are doing requirement elicitation. That's a different question.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
So let's take a 1 minute break here.
yeah.
So I'll like to request others in the call as well. So if they can join us on stage, and we can make a session interactive more. So Bhushan is asking some very valid questions and a good questions, and I'm trying to answer to best of my abilities. But as I said, we we can have better answers and better questions if we have more brains on the table. Yeah. So if you can please do join us on stage, just send me a request and I'll approve it. So if you can join us on stage, we can, make this session more interactive, and we can give more ideas to Bhushan and to others on the call, or, listening into the call, or listening into the saved recordings. Yeah. So please send me a request. Yeah. So Bhushan, yeah, let's continue.
Okay. So third question, let's say, let's say you are into this elicitation phase or planning phase, and you have documented the requirement, and at the same time, if some developer or QC reach out to you with some queries, so how you are going to handle that thing? If they have some queries or concerns about the stories, or if they find something, something is missing, uh, or like, they want more information on that part. So how do you handle that particular situation?
Mm-hmm. So dev and QC asking questions is a very, very, very common scenario and is one of the base responsibilities of a BA. There is no use of creating elaborative documents if no one is going to read it. And who are the readers of our document, right? One is client, and other than that, dev and QC who are going to do something from the document and who are going to develop something and test something out, right? So it is very obvious that they will have questions, right? So as dev team and QC team asking questions is one of the duties that a BA has to perform, is to answer them, right? Now, two things. One thing is, how can I minimize these questions? So I can minimize these questions by keeping my language unambiguous, by keeping my statements short and concise, by keeping my statements to the point, by keeping my statements, by adding in more examples to ensure that my message is passing through, to add maybe more notes in regards to what other stories or what other documents can be referred to also include some business elements regarding, to minimize the questions coming my way. Second scenario is where I have, even despite my best efforts, I have got a question from my dev team. Now, again, couple of scenarios can happen. So first thing is, or my ideal or my preference would be that I'll point out to the dev that your response is hidden within this particular acceptance criteria or within this statement. So if you read this statement, it is answering your query. Yeah. So I try to point dev to the right place where the information is. Second case might happen is that dev is asking a question which I have not thought of earlier, and no one has thought of earlier, or a system limitation has been brought into light, or some technical challenges there. So in that case, I try to understand the question. I try to figure out a response from myself. Now, it's a valid question, right? It could be an invalid question, which I am able to answer then and there, but it is, let's assume it's a valid question. In that case, what will happen is I will add a note to my story to give the clarification, because if dev is asking a question, same question might come from QC, same question might come from SIT. So I'll make a note in my story, and I'll add a note in the history that I'm updating this information to answer so and so query, or I'm making a note just to clarify things, and I'll inform my client also that I have added a note to this case. It is also possible that the response is more like a new requirement or a missed requirement. I'll say it right in the same story. So until and unless I think that it needs to be another story, let's say it needs to be in the same story, in that case I'll go back to the client and I'll bring the client buy-in, and I'll say I'm writing this as part of the criteria, and I hope you are aligned to it. It is also possible that I myself as a BA does not know the answer, right, or something that I need to check with the client. So I'll drop a note to the client, I'll get the response, and then I'll update the story, and then I'll add a note to the story saying that this is updated as per uh, the client response, and I'll attach the email to my story. Yeah. So you have to keep a track or a trace of each and every query that comes across, because same queries will come downstream or down the line. Now, if the query is repeated, then you may not remember what response you gave to the dev. So you might end up spending more time finding out the response, or you might end up giving a different response to the QC member, resulting into bugs and then everyone getting confused later on, right? So it's better to avoid any such scenarios. Whenever a query comes in, you do make sure that it's part of your story or part of your documentation. Yeah. And do follow the process of informing the client, informing the relevant stakeholders. We also drop an email to dev and QC team members saying that we have added a note to the story to make the clarifications, or we have added a new criteria to the story to make the to note down the missed requirements, so on and so forth. So follow the process and uh, make sure that you try to minimize these queries to the maximum extent. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shipra. So I see other
Yeah.
members has also joined as a speaker, so I'll allow them to ask some question.
Yeah. So thanks, Karthik, and thanks, Zevin, for joining us. Uh, Nivas for joining us. Yeah. So what do you think of so far? Do you have any inputs or any feedback, or if you have any questions which we can take up? I'll invite you first, Nivas.
Hi, Chipra. Hi, everyone. Thank you for that. And
Hi.
my query on the on the like the query we discussed few minutes back, I mean the previous query on how to track
Mhm.
the like requirements. So in most places they say they will use like RTMs and other documentations, like documenting them in the Confluence pages. So will those answers will not satisfy the like interviewers, like the panel? Because
Um,
I mean when I was working, I mean, when I used to keep track of my my requirements, I used to keep them in a place in in an Excel sheet. So and then I post those infos in the Excel into the Confluence, and after that I share it with my product owner. So this is how I used to track. There were no complaints actually from anyone, and but still I was just wondering, is it a correct approach, or do we need to change this?
no, so I didn't get the question exactly. Is the question how do you track requirements?
Yes, yes.
And what they mean by tracking requirements?
Track requirements, like whether we have achieved all the requirements, while developing the part. Like you might have just captured many things from the requirement, from the functional side, from a page or from a particular functionality. So there might be n number of like functionalities. So how do you track, like you are just you have developed all these requirements?
Hmm. So we have requirement tracking tools available nowadays, right? So if we are writing stories, we are writing stories in one or the other system,
Mhm.
right? So let's say Jira or some other tools, DevOps or some other tool, right? So uh, the requirements are tracked via the system in place
Mhm.
until and unless we are doing it manually in an Excel file or so. So whenever you are logging a story, there is always a trace of the story. So you can run a query and say that what all stories are assigned to me, and you'll get all the stories which are assigned to you. So then you can check out the status on the story. Is it right now with dev, is it with QC, or is it in UAT, or is it already closed? So you track the requirements throughout the release cycle or throughout the sprint, right? So that's how you track requirements. RTM is something that you prepare when you uh, work in a waterfall kind of a project, or when you are not writing stories, or when you are not having a tool to track the requirements. So in that case, what you'll do is you'll note down your requirements in an Excel sheet, and then dev will say, okay, I have a refer to this code set to um, which covers this requirement, and then testing team will say, yes, I have tested it out with so and so test case. They'll put in their test case number, and they say, yes, we have this has been tested. And then UAT team will say, yes, we have covered this scenario during UAT, it's been tested, right? So that's how you track requirements there. The question could very well have been a flavor of how do you keep track of your own internal work, right?
Mhm.
So you might be working on number of stories uh, at the same
Right.
time. So some stories will be in development phase, some will be in a closed state, or some are resolved, right? So you can also say in that case that I do the tracking via the tool which I am using. If it is a manual, then I keep a track via my calendar invites or via my internal notes, right? So uh, first you have to understand the intent of the interviewer when they are saying, how do you track requirements? Is it more to do with your internal day-to-day tracking of work, that you are not missing out responding to some important emails, or missing out on some important analysis, or missing out on responding to some of the dev queries, right? So how do you track your day-to-day activities? How do you track your work? Is the intent related to that, or is the intent is ensuring the requirements are being developed and tested? So that's done by the tool or the RTM. Yeah,
Mhm.
so get the clarity on the question first and then respond.
So, okay, the question was exactly like when you are working on like multiple projects, how do you keep track of your requirements?
How do you keep track of your work, basically, right?
They use the word requirement. When you are working on multiple projects, so how do you track your
Hmm.
requirements? That is how they frame the question.
So you can say we create some dashboards in the tool, and those dashboards keep giving us a picture of how many stories are currently assigned to me, and how many stories are ready for a demo, how many stories are pending or on hold because I need to respond to. So dashboards can be created in the tool which you are deploying,
Okay,
and you can track your work from there.
okay, okay.
And what's the
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
happening here? So is it only on the requirements part they are asking, or on the general progress of the particular feature the analyst expecting from you? Just want to
Okay,
understand.
if they would have like asked about how you track your your requirements in a single way. Okay, it could have been like how we see the growth of the development, how you track the growth. I can take it in a way, but the question is like when you are working on a multiple projects, so in that condition, how do you track your requirements? You might have uh, so uh,
Okay,
this
so
is how they put it.
this is
Yeah.
something like you are working on multiple streams for a particular project, you're interacting with different stakeholders in the client side as well as in the technical team. So the interviewer is trying to assess whether something, for example, you have gathered the requirements, but it doesn't materialize into a feature.
Mhm,
That's what they are
mhm.
expecting from us.
Okay, okay, I can understand. Yeah.
No, no, that's what they are expecting from you.
Okay. No, no, I'm not sure about that particular part. That's why I'm just
Okay,
putting
so
the question here. Yeah, I'm not very much sure about
uh,
what they
uh,
actually meant.
what you can say is, for so you are into agile, correct, or in waterfall
Right.
development?
I'm into Agile.
Okay, so you use Confluence, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So what you can say is anyway for every project or even for every bigger chunk of work, right? So you will create different pages in Confluence, correct?
Right,
Either some
right.
personal specifications you will create, or you will create some epics for every functionality on a higher level. So, for example, if you are creating a functional specification page and you don't have the concept of creating epics, what you can do is you can, for example, let's say an ATM, you are developing, and first is a withdrawal management. So what you can say is you will create a page for withdrawal functionality, so that in this entire Confluence page, what you will do is you will create a tabular column just like your requirements traceability. So what you can do is you will, based on the discussions with the client, you will write every requirements as a line item, just like a single line item in just like an RTM. What you can what you can say is the moment you write the requirements, what you will create is you will create a uh, column with the JIRAs against it for every requirements. Okay, so by that you will be able to you will not be able to miss any requirements. So that is one thing, and you can assign the stories to you. So by that, everything whenever you go to Jira or even you go to this Confluence page, you will be able to understand that these are the requirements, and these are the JIRAs, which something has to be done on these JIRAs, correct? So this is one thing, and other thing is you can create an epic, and under the epic you can create as many JIRAs, and you can link it to that epic, so that the epic will be always. I think it will be a overall progress. You'll always display overall progress of your story, so you can see the progress of the epic, whether it is 70% completed or 80% completed. So once you link these two things, right, so you can very well make sure that whatever the requirements you have gathered does not get misplaced something, or you missed out in your daily busy schedule. So maybe this point you can add according to me.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Karthik. That's well put up. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. Nivas, do you have any other queries?
Yeah. There's something about the change management part. Like whenever a requirement comes in between, how you take care of that particular change management item, or sorry, change requirement item. Any small changes that is coming in between those kind of items.
Yeah. So first of all, we have to understand what that item is, right? So sometimes what happen is it turns out to be a requirement which was missed at our end. Yeah, that could be one of the change that's coming our way. So if it's a miss at our end, then we will have to deal with it without impacting the timelines and make an update. So you have to informally reach out to your dev and request them to include that item in, because it was a miss from your side. Yeah. Second could be maybe a product bug or a product limitation has been uncovered, or something which product does not support currently. So that kind of a limitation has come up. Then in that case, you'll try to find a workaround while informing the product team that this is a limitation which is messing up my requirements which are signed off. But at the same time, you cannot just wait for the product fix, right? So in that case, you will have to somehow find out a workaround regarding that requirement. So those are the scenarios where it was something internal. Then there can be a case wherein the client is saying, I want this to be included in. Now, again, that requirement can be of multiple types. So it could be a very small requirement, right? Maybe during the demo, they say, oh, I don't like the label. Can we change the label to some, this and this? It's hardly 5 minutes job for a developer, right? So what you will say is, let me write a story and include that in the next sprint. So link both of your stories saying that, we developed something with this story, but now the story has been overwritten by so-and-so story. So link both the stories and include that small bit in after informing your project manager in the next sprint, right? So client is least bothered about sprint by sprint deliveries. They look at the release deliveries. So if something is small, easily doable, just to have a good relationship with the client, include that in the next sprint. And it's not worth discussing the pricing of it, or a very small bit. Sometimes what happen is some new requirement comes within a sprint, and client is like, I want this as well. Then first of all, you have to make sure that the client understands that nothing the client is saying will be part of the current sprint itself, right? So you'll say, okay, let me understand the requirements first, and set up a meeting after a few days, get those requirements listed out, get a client to sign off the stories. You'll need some time to draft the stories, and by the time you get the approval from the client, the sprint is either already over or the sprint is about to get over. Yeah, and in that case, you can say to the client, okay, we can make it part of the next sprint, but now again, it depends what this current situation is. If the sprint has already been planned, if the sprint has already started and there are fixed set of items in it, then you will have to inform the client, the sprint is planned already, so we cannot include it in the next sprint, but maybe in subsequent sprint we'll do that. And as I mentioned, client is least bothered about sprint wise planning. They always look at what they are going to get in the end release, right? So and that too is the case wherein your project manager has agreed to take up the requirement, or the client has agreed to pay for the change request which you are incorporating. Yeah, and if the client is paying for it, then client will also have to understand that it's going to take more time. So if they are going to introduce 2 new items, then maybe the sprint will get delayed by a week or so, or the sprint will get delayed by a month or so. So they will also have to take up the cost and the timeline upon themselves. So they will have to uh, get aligned to it. Yeah. Or sometimes what you'll say is, I have done a requirement elicitation, I get a fair idea of what your requirement is, but this is not part of the current scope. Yeah, so let me put it in the backlog. With all the discussions that we have, let me make proper notes for it. So but let me put it in the backlog, and we'll talk about it when we plan for the next release. Yeah, so scenario by scenario you take a call. There is no one shoe fit all approach that you can take. So every requirement will will be in a different situation. So the requirement type will be different. It will be small requirement, it will be medium requirement, it will be very big change. Yeah, or it may be a complete overhaul of whatever you are doing, or it might be very insignificant, like a label change kind of a thing. So the requirement will come with its own flavor, with its own type. And same goes for the current situation. Has the release started? Has the sprint started? How many resourcing we have, how much time we have, uh, whether client is ready to pay for it, whether client is not ready to pay for it, basically the situation. So there are so many permutation and combinations of the situation and the requirement type that you cannot just say, I always follow this. Yeah, so each and every time you have to take the call as per the situation and as per the requirement that you have come across.
Right. Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
And just adding,
Okay.
there is something like an impact analysis template which is readily available in Google as well, Nivas. So the reason is in this template, right? It's very, very easy to use. That it will have different areas of impact. For example, one change which you are going to time you start with analysis, right? So you will find many surprises that even thought uh, impacted. These areas will be impacted. You will never know before. So you can have that now template, and for all those every new changes or even the change request you get, right. So you just go through that process. So just don't do you alone that process. You can just take your lead dev, or if possible your architect also pull into that, and just check what are those areas that will get impacted. The reason is many times the client you just based on their business needs, they will push the BA to do things done. So they will say like you can stop the current prints stories. You can just put those into backlog and take these stories on priority, right? So they will try to push you so much that these stories have to be completed in the current sprint. But in the end, if something backfires, right? So immediately the scolding will be put on your head, saying that as a BA you didn't do that diligence in terms of the analysis. So even if the client pushes hard, right, just take a pass for 1 or 2 days, get this impact analysis done along with other basic
Right.
then
Right. Understood. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very important point which Karthik has raised,
Yeah.
right? So a BA should be aware of the scope. BA should know what is the current project scope, and BA should not take any requirement, be it just a 5-minute job. But BA should not take up any requirement which is outside the project scope, because you will end up losing money for your company, right? So every change that the client requests for, or every new requirement that the client comes up with, is something that it's chargeable to the client, right? So many projects have this concept of a creation of a CRM, CRF form, change request form, or some document is in place, which is prepared jointly by BA and a project manager and a technical architect. So 3 people pitch in and create this CR form for the client, wherein they say, what the client is asking for, how at a very high level, how they are going to answer, provide, or what kind of solution they are going to provide for it, what assumptions they are taking, what is in scope, what is out of scope, and how much is the costing, how much time it will take. It will take 3 weeks or it will take 10 months, right? And how much cost it will incur. That is something which PM will be entering, right? So what technical constraints will be there? So impact on other systems is usually a part of CRF. Yeah. So in the change request form itself, you'll say we will be covering A system, we will not be covering B system, right? So a complete list might already be there. So many projects have this CRF in place, and that is filled up and then sent to the client for their approval, and for them to make a confirmation that they will be paying for it. So if you are taking requirements just because client is asking you, but it is not in current project scope, then you are losing money for your company, which is never a good thing. You should always think of how to make money for your company, because you are working for your company, not for the client. Yeah. So the more CRs you are bringing in, right, more trusted you will be within your company, and more people will acknowledge you, rather than if you are making the client happy by giving him the delivery of the requirements which are um, outside the project scope. So don't rely on PMs to make a call, right? So do tell to the client that this requirement that you are asking for is something chargeable. It's something out of the current project scope. So, let me ask the PM to create a CRF form for you, and, to raise it to note it as a change request in the change log. So follow a change request procedure which is in place for your project.
Hi, Neelam, Sandeep here. Just have some scenario-based questions, and I'd like your inputs on them. One of them is, what steps would you take if you discovered a critical issue in a project close to the deadline? How would you best answer this?
What kind of a critical issue?
Uh,
So
maybe,
yeah, there can be a number of scenarios there,
yeah.
right?
So, if the question itself is so generic, then do we
Mhm.
ask the interviewer what kind of an issue, or do we just
Yes,
Okay.
that was the
Okay.
approach, since every now and then they will check. Sorry. So every now and then they will try to analyze how deep as a VA we are going. So maybe it's a very good approach to try to narrow down to a particular scenario, Sandeep. So
all
we can
right?
we try to uh, focus the interviewer to a particular problem. Then if we try to answer it, and we'll try to keep on as many questions back to him. So don't ask too many questions so that the interview will get over, but try to phrase at least 5 to 6 questions and just try to get a uh, very focused area so that you will be able to answer it. That one approach you will always expect, and again based on the criticality you said, right? So maybe something like we are approaching the production in a week or in next 3 days, and they said that there is a critical issue, correct? So in this case, you know, anything could be of the requirement, then it will bite our head only in terms of it is pointing finger towards PA, and otherwise it is something related to a architecture fault, or something related to a infrastructure issue. Then we can say, like, we discuss with the architect and the technical team, and we try to uh, uh, fix the problem soon. But if in case of, if it is a uh, requirement miss, right? So we should play very smartly in saying that in that case we'll try to say, like, understand the bigger problem, and only within 3 days left, right? So you not not be, for example, if the issue is a bigger one, so what we can say is we'll try to split the issue into smaller chunks so that among the bigger issue, for example, we can split that bigger missed requirements into 5 parts, and among the 5 parts, which is the high priority for the client for the release, right? So we can say, like, as a BA, we just pick a chunk of the problem and we'll try to implement it. That way, at least we can just calm the nerves to a bit. But again, it is not a very good scenario for a BA, but at least you can, you can reduce the impact on you if it is a missed requirement.
Yeah. And if you are being asked a very generic question such as this, right? So there can be different approaches of handling this. First one is ask the question back and try to narrow down the exact thing, right? So sometime back we talked about track requirements. So my question was, what do you mean by track requirements, right? Is it tracking requirements till deployment that they, to ensure that they are being developed or not? Or is it tracking requirement means, how I manage my day-to-day work? Similarly, if they are saying, a critical issue has come up, so what kind of issue is it? Is it something regulatory requirement which has recently come up and, impacting my entire project? Then in that case, no one could have foreseen it. So then I'll talk back to the client and, we'll try to figure out a way out. Maybe will take a few more weeks to, get this sorted out because it's a regulatory requirement and there is no way around it. Or it, critical issue might be something to do with technical things like server is down or, some technical issue has come up or COVID has come up, right? So depending on what kind of critical issue has come up, right? So we'll take the call according to the type of the issue. Plus, dealing with critical issues is outside my work responsibilities. I can provide my inputs to the PM, but the PM needs to handle the critical issues, right? And something coming up just 3 days before UAT is it can't be that critical. It could be one of the risks which have been highlighted long time back. So it's very rare that you figure out something which has gone through the entire UAT cycle, right? So UAT will not be of a 3 days only, right? UAT will be of at least 2 weeks. So if it has gone through the UAT and everything, it can't be that critical. So what I can do is, as a BA, I can maybe talk to the client, get an understanding of why they think it's a critical issue, and I'll try to provide a workaround for it or try to give them a solution for it, with which they can maybe work for another 10 days, or and then we'll provide a fix to it in one of the warranty releases. But dealing with it is not my job, it's a PM's job. So it could be very well be a trick question to understand whether you know your boundaries or not. But yes, if you have suggested in your profile that you are a BA plus PM, then you can't answer like that, right? Because you are saying that I'm a senior resource and I'm doing project management activities as well. Then you can't say that it's a PM job. But if you are maybe a junior BA, then you can very well say that I'll highlight it, or I'll let my project manager know about it. At the same time, I'll talk to my client and I'll try to provide a workaround for it and try to provide some solution for it by talking with my technical team, by talking with the product team, by talking with the senior people in the organization or subject matter experts, right? So I'll try to find a solution for the client, and we'll deal with it head on. So, but yeah, if you're a junior BA, then you can say that I'll I'll escalate it to my project manager and let him know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Sandeep, who asked the question, seems to have left. I'm not sure what happened.
So Shipra, just one question. For example,
Yeah.
this question will everyone just get right. So why do you want to switch from your current job? So there could be multiple scenarios, right? So one scenario, they just want to get feedback. So basically, the current role which you're doing in a company is, you have all the responsibilities and the project is going well. And the interview you are applying also is kind of a similar role which you are going to do. The major thing is, due to some interpersonal conflicts in the current company, you want to switch, and also another reason, money could be a reason. Okay, so in this scenario, how we can project that we are looking for a change, Shipra? The role is pretty
Okay, so
similar. So it is nothing like a different kind of a role, so that we can say like I want to experience new things also. So pretty much the same, but the current company, you're not able to get what you want, so you are just looking for a change. Also, the package is also good in the new company. So how we can, how we can put in a way diplomatically we can manage this kind of scenario.
So Karthik, your voice was breaking, but I think I got the gist of your question. So your question is how to answer why do you want to switch, or why should we hire you, or why do you want to change your current work, right?
Yes, but on a specific scenario, like the role we are going to is also pretty much similar, and current project is
Yeah.
going
So
well. It gives you a lot of learnings, but the new company is providing your higher package. But we cannot say I am looking for a package at the front, right? Maybe we can just add point,
yeah,
but not the prime focus, right? So how we can, smartly face this question and answer.
yeah. So you're right. Money should never be a response to this question. Do not ever say money. And plus, it is also possible that you don't even know how much package they are going to offer to
Correct.
you. Most of the time, that information is not shared
Mm.
upfront. Most of the time, you will not get to get an idea of it till your HR contacts with you and say that I'm going to release you an offer of so and so
Yeah.
amount. So till that time, you will not get any indication 90% of the cases on the package. So package can never be a response to this question because you don't know how much the other company is going to pay you. You might be thinking, or not only you, but everyone thinks that my package is very low. Yeah, it's the others are earning much more than me, but my package is very low. So it's a very common thing to feel. But you don't know, maybe the other company is giving you a similar package, right? So money can never be an answer to this question. Uh, Second usual answer is the change in profile, right? Or a growth in profile. Like you are doing a BA job and then you are getting a senior BA profile or a BA lead kind of a profile. But in your case, you have mentioned that that is also not the case because the interview is being held for your BA role only, and the roles and responsibilities are not much
Correct.
different,
Yeah.
right? Third thing that can happen is you are having internal conflicts. You are not happy with your PM, you are not happy with your lead, whatever is the reason. You could be at the fault as well, but of course you are not going to tell about that to the other company, right? Because that will a sure shot guarantee of getting your rejection,
Correct.
right? If you are saying I'm having a conflict with my current profile, so never ever mention that you are having a conflict. Yeah, then depends on how much duration you have spent with your current company. So if you have spent a good duration of 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, 12 years, then you can very well say that I have spent a considerable amount of time in my current organization, and I'm looking for a change to explore more opportunities to get myself acquainted with different cultures in the organization, and getting more challenges. So that is a valid answer. You're saying that enough is enough, and I've already spent 5 years, so let me have a look around. So that's a acceptable answer in the IT industry. Maybe not in a government offices, but in the IT industry, it's very people understand that at one point in time you will start looking out for sure, because no one is going to spend 30-40 years in the same organization. Yeah. So depends on the amount of time you have spent. If it's considerable amount, starting 5 years onwards, then you can say that I'm looking for more challenges or better or different work culture. Yeah, opportunities you cannot say because the work profile is same.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's one response. Second can happen is that you have spent very less time in your current organization. Yeah, just 1 year or 2 year, and then you are looking for a change. Then it becomes even more tricky why you are looking out so early, right? You have not even spent 6 months with the organization and you have already started looking out. right? In that case, there will be definitely a genuine reason why you are doing so. Yeah, maybe the location is not suiting you. Maybe you are looking for work from home and they are calling you in office right now. Maybe they told you some different profile. Yeah, they will do that. It's because they'll try to understand why you are leaving the company so
Correct.
soon. Yeah.
Yes.
So be ready in that case, but you can mention the genuine reason,
Mm.
right? So maybe location constraint, maybe you want to come back to your family and support them. So n number of reasons can be there. So you can give a genuine reason in that case.
Yes.
Maybe you're getting married. Yeah, people do switch companies, especially ladies when they get married. So yeah, you can say that. If you have already spent considerable amount of time, then you will definitely be looking for outside just because you want something change in your profile. Yeah.
So
So
whenever I ask this question like,
I'm sorry.
whenever I ask this question into the interviews, right? So they will always say like, I want to get more challenges. But if they ask what are the challenges you expect, they will not be able to answer.
Yeah. So as I said, interviewer will definitely grill you out.
So whatever we say, like at least we should have 2, 3 bullet points to back it. Just like our BA work, always we should go with some data, right? So every answer we say, we should have some points to support, right?
Hmm. So sometimes, people do say that I'm such a critical resource in my current project that they're not allowing me to move out.
Yeah,
So, so that's why, I've already done 4 years in this support profile, and they are not allowing me to move out. So I'm looking for a change and better opportunities. In that case, interviewer might ask you, what if they allow you to move after you show them your offer? So in that case, your response could be, that's a call I'll take, because I'll try to understand what project they are offering to me and what project you are going to offer to me.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's a give and take kind of a thing, right? So whomsoever is giving more can take more of your time and more work from you. Yeah.
yeah,
Shipra, I do have one scenario-based question. Can I go?
Yeah, sure.
So let's say there is one website where you will log in, okay, or you can consider it as an application. Then once you log in, you will land it on the home screen, and in the home screen there might be a different options. So one of the option, let's say it's a dashboard, okay. So if you click on that dashboard, then you will have different option like daily report, monthly report, quarterly report. So firstly, how will you describe or like what I can say? How will you break down this into the features, and how will you break down into the user stories and the tasks? And the other is, let's say, how you will write a story for one of the feature, let's say daily report. So you can describe what are fields you want to add into that particular story. So firstly, like how will you break down into the features, and how will you write that particular user story for let's say daily report functionality within the dashboard? Did you get my question?
Yeah. Yeah. So essentially, the interviewer has laid out everything for you. So they have given you epics, right? So your epics are going to be login page. Then second epic is going to be home screen, and third epic is going to be your dashboard
Mhm.
screen. Yeah. So that's those are going to be your three epics. So within your login, so I may have features like login via user ID and password, or login via Google, or login via Facebook, or login via my SSO login. So I can add features like this, but then I'll decide what my MVP feature is going to be, and I'll put everything in the backlog. Yeah. So again, on homepage, I'll have features like dashboard reports, maybe some widgets, maybe some work tray, maybe some summary of information, maybe a news feed. So I'll have my different options available on my homepage as a feature, and I'll again prioritize them, and I'll say dashboard is my MVP and rest everything is my backlog. Then I'll move on to my dashboard feature, and then I'm writing stories for daily report, monthly report, quarterly reports, yearly reports. So I'll divide my stories. So it's very important for the BA or the person who is giving the interview is to pinpoint the exact thing that they are going to answer, rather than saying like that, like that, like that. Yeah. So say that. So if you see my responses, right, I'm not saying I'll create a story for a login and I'll have a login feature. I'm breaking it down exactly like login by Facebook, login by Google. So you have to be precise in your responses. That's very important here. Yeah. So under the dashboard feature, then I'm going to have the stories like yearly report, monthly report, so on and so forth. And then let's take an example of a monthly report. So as a user, so my details for the story will be, as a user, I want monthly report to be available in dashboard so that I can track my revenues or my expenses or whatever it is, right? So now in order to write the acceptance criteria, first I'll try to draft it out, but then I'll have some questions which I'm going to ask you. So let me first understand the requirements of monthly report. So are all of my users be able to view this monthly report, or the access will be restricted to some leads? Yeah. Second question on the report is, what all information will be available in the report? It's monthly report for what? Is it monthly report for revenues, monthly report for expenses, monthly report of sales made? So what kind of monthly report it is, right? Then what columns will be available here? Whether my data will have some filters, right? So you will be belonging to one particular domain. So take an example from that domain and ask the right set of questions. I am just telling you the columns and rows, but you will be posing particular questions for your domain. So then you will be asking whether my report will have any filters, whether my report will cover for the current month, or the user will be selecting the month for which they want to see the report, whether I can see historic reports. So I need to understand. I'll elicit the requirements from your side, and then take up few examples which interviewer has responded to you. So, for example, the interviewer has said, okay, this is a monthly report for SalesMate. So, given I am an business user with appropriate permissions, when I open up monthly report, then I shall be able to see following information for so and so records. Yeah. So I'll mention how my rows will be formed, and then I'll mention how my columns will be formed. My second criteria will be, given I am a business user with so and so permissions, when I extract a monthly report, then I shall be able to filter the report based on XYZ criteria, and per monthly, I may be able to filter my report on monthly basis for this year, starting January month, and my figures will come from so and so database, or I'll give the logic for giving me the sales figure. So like that, I'll write my story, and then what I'll do is I'll create a Excel file with an example or a sample of the report which will be there, right? So I'll mention what all columns will be there, what all filters will be available, and a few sample rows, for testing purposes, and I'll attach that file to my story. So if you explain it like this, it will mean that you have written stories and you know what you're going to do, rather than bookish knowledge, basically.
Understood. Thank you so much, Shikha. And
Yeah.
yeah, one more is there, like, so it will be very generic question, I would say. So if your team is working on the current sprint item, so how would you make sure that the proper backlog is maintained for the upcoming sprint.
Yeah, so backlog is already decided at the start of the release most of the time. Yeah, so you will have uh, let's say 10 items which you will be doing in 2 sprints. Then you will already have assigned 6 items in 1 sprint, and 4 items in sprint 2. So when you start a project, you prepare a sprint backlog plus you keep a product backlog for any other items which are currently in discussion. So for sprint, and let's say we are working in sprint 1 and sprint 2 is about to start, and I'll see how many stories are in there. So let's say 20 stories are already assigned. So as a BA, I have to make sure that all these 20 stories are ready, are approved, and or are groomed to the technical team, and technical team has provided the SharePoint story points which I have added into these stories. So I can take an extract, I can run some queries in the application I'm using, and I can make sure that those things are ready by the time. At the same time, I will also start looking into S3 and S4 stories, which may need more discussion, or I may be able to get them approved before getting approval on the S2 stories, in which case I should have some backup stories to replace the stories which I was not able to get approved. Yeah.
Yeah, this makes sense. Okay. Then next question that I will say, give me a second.
Yeah. Someone else has also joined us. I know Ritu is not your right name. I am forgetting your name. Sorry. Is it Nilesh or
Good evening, Shipra. This is Jay.
Jay? Sorry. Yeah, Jay.
Hi there. So, Shipra, on the dashboard requirement, what will be the acceptance criteria, please?
See, first of all, you need to understand what the dashboard is about, right? And whether it's indeed a report kind of a dashboard, or is kind of a pie chart or a bar chart kind of a dashboard, right? So dashboard requirements are a bit different from your normal requirements, where or wherein you are saying add a field, or make some calculations. So dashboard requirements, if you are writing a report, then you will have to talk about the reporting requirements, how your what all columns will be in there, what all rows will be in there, how if there are any filters on your reports, if there are any filters which user can put up to get the report, what all features of the report will be, can you export your report to the Excel file, or so on and so forth. Yeah. How long the report will take to load, whether it's an SSRS report or Power BI report. So those kind of things that you will capture if it's a report kind of a dashboard. If it is a bar chart or a pie chart kind of a dashboard, then you'll say I'll get a pie chart, and my pie chart components will give me a percentage allocation into so and so, right? So for example, let's say my sales are 1 million, and 0.5 million sales are done by branch A, 0.3 million sales are done by branch B, and 0.2 million sales are done by branch C. Then I'll get a pie chart, and my 50% of the pie chart will show me branch A, and 30% of the pie chart will show me branch B, and 20% of the remaining pie chart will give me branch C, right? So you detail it, you take technical team's help and try to understand what they want. And it's always helpful if you can prepare some random test data in an Excel file, and then apply a pivot chart on it, and then have a representation of how your dashboard is going to look like. So that's how you get the or note down the requirements. So as I mentioned, better is to have an Excel sheet attached with the working, uh, calculations and working sample of data. That's going to helpful to you in reporting and dashboard requirements. Yeah, Jay?
Thank you, Shipra. My question was more around acceptance criteria, the given when then template. But then whatever you said, I think I absorbed many of the characteristics that can be used for acceptance criteria. Thank you, Shipra.
So your acceptance criteria will be given I am a so and so user, the user role, right? So let's say given I am branch manager, when I view dashboard arrow, the location of the report. So when I view dashboard summary, then I shall have a so and so report or a so and so dashboard. I shall have a sales by branch dashboard available to me, and this dashboard shall show to me all the sales made in different branches, a percentage split of different branches, and it should filter out any sales which were made 3 years back, let's say. Yeah, so like that. So business terms, you'll note down the requirements, but then you add a Excel file with some sample data and a dashboard created out of it to make it more clear. Yeah.
Okay. Shipra,
Sure, Shipra. Thanks.
so
Yeah.
sometimes interviewer asks like, whatever, what kind of a technology you have worked on. So how to answer that? Uh, or like, what technology you work in your project? Question like that.
Mhm. So the intent is not for them to ask you to work in that technology, right? So if you're saying Java or .NET, the idea is not, they are not thinking that, okay, you will start writing Java code because you have experience working on it, right? So, but the idea is how much you are aware of your system. How much do you know your system technically? Are you aware of your system architecture? Right? So the idea is to understand that. So if you don't even know whether the system you're working is a .NET based system or a Sitecore based system or a Java based system, then that puts up a question mark on how much you are aware of it technically. So you can say that the application is in .NET, but afraid I have not worked in .NET and I'm not sure. But at least mention whether your application is in C# or .NET or Java or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. I do answer that. Like, for a backend, we are using a C sharp language into .NET framework, and you're storing data into the SharePoint list as a database. Then for a front end, we are using Angular and maybe HTML. Yeah. This way,
Yeah, yeah. That's the right answer.
Mhm. And the changing requirement we already discussed, I think. How do you handle, like,
Yeah. So shall we take a break here? If you feel that we'll need another session to go through some more generic questions, how they can be answered. So we can set up another session. Just put up a request in the BA club. I'm just conscious of the time we have already extended for 25 minutes. So
yeah.
yeah, so let's take a break here today. And if you think we need another session, just put up a request and I'll schedule next week also
Okay.
for the same topic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll talk about roles and responsibilities of BA in a QA phase. I'm quite aware that's pending. I'm also checking with Anupam if he's willing to take up the payments domain, session 2. So yeah, at least put up your request if you think we need more time to discuss this. But very very good questions from all of you, and it was quite good to understand the different questions being asked and
Yeah.
how you can respond to them.
Just last thing, Shipra, it is just about PSM and PSPO documentation. Like if I am working as a BA plus PM, so which certification I can go for along with this two? Or can I
Yeah.
opt for safe certification, something like that? So,
Yeah. So it depends, right? So if I briefly talk about certifications, so SAFE is scaled agile,
mhm,
and not many organizations in India are following it. So until and unless your project team is following SAFE, you need not take that certification. And I personally didn't find it very helpful or practical in day-to-day workings.
understood.
It does give some good concepts, like focus on quality from day one kind of concepts, but until and unless projects are engaged in scaled agile framework, you can skip that. Next comes certification like CSM and CSPO. So those are kind of paid certifications. You pay 25,000-30,000 or whatever is the current cost. Go to 2 days training, and they'll give you a certification. But if you ask me, in the market, those certifications are just something you can buy from money, and they don't really add any value to your learnings.
Okay.
Third is PSM and
Yes.
PSPO. PSM is more or less like a um, basic Scrum certification. It's essentially for Scrum Masters, but anyone can take it. I'll say. And then PSPO is for product owners. So those are certifications which will, you know, for which you will have to study and then give the exam, and they don't expire also. So if you want to go for some certifications, you can go for it. But And then we have IIBA, ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP certifications, which are next level certifications for a BA. But be mindful of the fact that certifications may get you an interview, but they do not guarantee you clearing that interview, because Indian market is more focused on your day-to-day workings, on more focused on your current experience, more focused on your attitude. They will just brush off your certification. So if you are going for a certification, do focus on it from learning perspective as well. Do not just think of cramming up some dumps and clearing out the exam. So do understand the crux of it. Do understand how you can bring in those learnings to your day-to-day work. So if you're thinking that I'll do a certification and I'll get a job, uh, even if it is a fresher or someone, right? So that may not necessarily be the case. Sometimes it helps, but not always.
Yeah, yeah. Just wanted
So
to add some weightage on my resume and also getting more understanding of this
Mhm.
role. And as we earlier discussed at the start of this session only. So, last interview was what with product manager. So I said like I'm doing this elicitation, documenting it and everything. So what exactly that interview replied? Okay, so it is a part of product owner or product manager role, having communication, one-to-one communication with the stakeholder, gathering those requirements, documenting it. So, I
Mhm.
thought, if I'm already doing that, so, it will better to have those certification, let's say product owner. And if I'm managing this project only. So the Scrum Master certification will be also, beneficial, I would say. And yeah, I just wanted to
Mhm.
make clarity on that CSM and which one is better, like Scrum.org is better or Scrum Data Alliance. But you clearly mentioned that CSM and CSP it is you can just buy it from the market. But yeah,
Yeah.
so comparatively PSM and PSPO is quite better. So yeah, that I can go for.
Yeah. Yeah. But beware that these certifications are based on ideal things, right? Ideal text. So whatever they mention should ideally be the case, but most of the time, practically, it is not applicable, right? Practically, you have to change your strategy per project, per set of people you are working with. So it's not like one shoe fit all. So certifications, whatever you learn from the certification, just keep it in the back of your mind.
Mhm.
Do not try to enforce it in each and every project,
Okay.
because that may not work.
Okay. Understood. Understood. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, if you say agile, right? So it also depends on how you are interpreting it. So agile says focus more on the working software than on the documentation. But people interpret it like documentation is not required, which was not the agile intent. Agile intent was not to remove the documentation from the picture altogether. The intent was not to deliver documents as part of the delivery. But 80-90% of the people think that agile says documentations are not required. So we need to understand the intent. The intent was deliver faster working software, and then you can work on the documentation to bring it aligned to the documents, or there should be some source of documents will be there, and documents should be there, but they are not saying do not prepare documents at all. So you need to understand the intent. Do not read between the lines. Yeah.
Yeah, and while writing this BRDs, so do you think we should have, more detailed documents, or if you just, create a 7, 8, or 10 pages of BRD, that is fine, like comparing this agile methodology in your mind?
See, each and everything should be written down. Yeah, as per me.
Okay.
What how it helps is, because if everything is clear, people will ask you less questions, and then you can focus more on the analysis bit. What will happen is a BA will be working on different requirements. Some of the requirements will be in dev and QC phase, some of the requirements will be in analysis phase. And BA wants to focus on the requirements which are in analysis phase, because those are key deliverables. If the BA is not making delivery on time, then what will happen is that dev will not have work to do, and project manager will breathe down the neck of the BA. Now BA wants to focus on the analysis phase, but what will happen is, because of poor documentation, many people will reach out to you and say, can you answer this, can you answer that, can you answer this, can you answer that, and some of them will be repetitive questions because you have not updated your documents alongside answering your queries, if that's the case. So what will happen is 70, 80, 60% of your time will go in answering queries on the requirements which you worked 2 months back, 3 months back, some time back, and those are not fresh in your mind. And then you are reaching out to then you are spending time to search out your emails, spending time to go through your notes, go through your pen and paper where you are making notes and all. So lot of time is just fly away in answering the dev and QC queries. And and mind it, if you are not answering dev and QC queries, you cannot say to the project manager, because dev will be like, I asked a question from the BA has not responded, so this item is on hold. And those are the items which are in current sprint, and PM will always focus on the current sprint rather than the upcoming sprint. Yeah, so you will be in a mess if you are not having a good set of documentation, because most of the time will go into an unproductive hour work, wherein you are just answering something that you have done few months back. So I always say to each and every BA that work with me, have proper documentation. Your documentation should be tight enough to cover each and everything that you have discussed with the client, or that you have discussed with the technical team. Make notes, add it to the history, but keep a track in a single place. Do not think that if someone asks me this question 5 months down the line, I'll check out my email. Your mailbox will have tens of thousands of emails already. Yeah, even if you have started working 2 months back. So many emails are come into your inbox. It's literally impossible to find a particular email when when you are in a dire need of it. And you sometimes end up spending 1 hour or so just to find a particular email. So don't let that situation come. If there is an important email, save it as a message file and attach it to your story. Yeah, and there is no harm in creating 9-10 page document. I have created BRDs, FSDs, which are even more than 150 pages. So, but yeah, don't shy away from documenting anything. So each and everything should be documented. in a proper, understandable, unambiguous format in your stories. Or just attach the document or just add it to the history, whatever you do, but please keep a track of each and every conversation that you had. Do not rely on your inbox.
Understood. Thanks for this valuable inputs, Shipra. And thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time today for taking this session.
Yeah. You're most welcome, Bhushan. And as I mentioned, please do send me another request if you want the session to continue. I'm sure there will be more questions from your recent experience. But yeah, up to you.
Yeah, I'll write some message, but yeah, we'll need more
Great.
audience.
Thanks.
We need more audience, but I'm not sure people are not joining. But yeah,
Yeah. No worries. So anything from your side, Nivas or Jay?
I have few questions, but I don't want to drag the time, so we can have another session. I can post my questions at the time.
Yeah. Just make a request on the BA Club Telegram group, and I'll set up another call next week. Yeah.
Sure, Shipra. And thanks, Shipra and Karthik.
Thank you, Shipra.
Yeah. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Nivas, and thanks, Bhushan. Thanks, Karthik, and thanks, Manisha, for joining in today. And thanks to others also who joined us earlier, in the session. So let's connect next week, and maybe we'll have the discussion continued.
Sure,
yeah.
Shipra.
Thanks everyone.
Happy
Have a
weekend, guys.
good,
Bye.
yeah, happy weekend. Bye.